Today's episode of FSI the Podcast is brought to you by Passages. More families are looking for funeral options that feel personal, meaningful, and gentler on the planet. At Passages International, they help funeral professionals meet that need with beautifully designed biodegradable urns, scattering tubes, fair trade certified woven caskets, and other sustainable memorial products. Since 1999, Passages has partnered with funeral homes worldwide to offer greener, more thoughtful choices for today's family. To learn more, visit passagesinternational.com. You can also find this link in the show notes. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Funeral Service Insider, the podcast. This is brought to you by Kates-Boylston, and I am your host, Jennifer Lades. And I'm super excited about the guest we have today. It is Kari the Mortician, which, if you've been alive in funeral service in recent years, I'm sure you know who she is, right? But yeah, so here we go. We get to meet Kari the Mortician. Welcome, Kari.
Thank you. This is so fun. I'm so excited.
I'm excited too because I have been a fan of yours and your work. I've actually used some of it in my classroom
Oh,
because the educational videos that you've created have been really helpful. And I wanted to ask you when before you get into your background, when did you start actually creating the video content that you made?
about 2016-ish, maybe. So about 8 years ago. I think I'm in my eighth year, which I haven't done a lot in the last year, but well, it's been about 8 years ago I kind of started posting and doing some things. So
Okay. What was your motivation for that?
I was between funeral homes and just trying to figure out, like, do I really want to get back into it? Do I want to do something else? I was in a rut and didn't realize it was a rut. And so kind of stepped back. And my husband at the time was in landscape pond build, like big companies across the country would come to doing these big pond builds. And they had just done something at one of the Paul brothers, like Logan or whatever the sorry, I don't know their names. And he's like, why don't you do some YouTube something? Because it was kind of when YouTube was really ramping up there, way before the TikTok and all of it, and the TikTok, like
I know, right?
the
I think I
Applebee's.
just sprouted another gray hair when you said
Oh my
that.
gosh, yeah. And so he encouraged me to try and do some live stuff. And he's like, you know what? Maybe you find passion again for it. Maybe you, I don't know, maybe it points you somewhere. And so I posted like, hey, what do you want to know about what I do as a business? Just in my Facebook and got like
Mhm.
15 answers of questions. And so I did 15 Facebook lives, which most terrifying thing when you first do a live because you're watching that little eyeball number go up and then when it goes down you're like why did they stop watching, like what did I do? And the whole mental aspect of it, I was telling someone about it the other day, it really humbles you in a weird way. But so I did that and then people wanted to know how they could share those videos with other folks, like hey, my mom wants to know about this, can I share it? And I'm like, well, so I thought about it and I didn't want to turn on my Facebook to full public because at the
Mhm.
time I didn't have as many, like, it was kind of an all or nothing. And so I just dumped them all to YouTube and then went back a week later and I was like, huh, people are posting questions that I don't know the people. And so it organically just started going. And I remember the day we drove to Chicago for a wedding. And I was like, I'm going to hit 1,000 followers by the time we get to Chicago. And we just like watched the number like go up as we're driving. But then I was also like word battling somebody who was like prodding at me on social media. And so I learned a lot that first like couple thousand followers, you learn a lot of really good life lessons on keyboard warriors and anonymity, especially on YouTube where you have no idea who anybody is. Like it's super anonymous and they goad you and they want to engage, it's that hate bait or whatever they call it and rage bait. And so I got into the rage and
Mhm.
had to learn how to respond, but shut it down. Like,
Mhm.
thank you for your opinion. Opinions are like, a-holes or
Mhm.
whatever, but in a nice way, and learn to deal with it. And then once there was enough people, my followers started kind of handling some of that for me, which was weird to do. But it just kind of grew and became its own thing. And my goodness, the people I've met and the opportunities and what I've learned about the business that I thought I knew so much about. And really, it was like a 1% because you just have no idea what's outside of vanilla little corner of Michigan that I'm in when you
Mhm.
get out into the rest of the world doing the business. So it was a door opening that I didn't know that I could ever gain so much from.
That's all. And I have to tell you that one of my favorite videos for is for my students. I teach law, is the one where you talk about formaldehyde monitoring.
Oh, for real? And I'm
Well,
like,
when you
I have
explain
a so
time
long
weighted
ago.
average and short-term exposure limit, and you do it succinctly and in a way that's more interesting than I could, I'm like, let me tag Kari in because
I
your
know.
eyes will glaze over otherwise, right? But no, you've made some really interesting videos, and if you could give one piece of advice to someone who is a content creator when you talk about lessons learned, what would it be?
Oh, be humble. And that just makes me think of, oh, that rapper that sings that Be Humble,
Oh
song.
yeah.
But if you go in acting like you're some big expert, you're gonna really get schooled. And you have to take even negative comments with a little grain and step back and go, okay, was that really the best content I could have given? Was that fully the best answer? Was that, what can I learn from that and then bring back? And you just have to take it with for what it is, but realize you're never gonna know. Like people who are say, "Oh, I'm an expert embalmer." Okay, what's the differentiation there between an
Yeah,
embalmer?
based on what?
Like
Yeah.
who gave you the crown? Because there's no crown. Like in within our embalming world, there is no higher power divvying out who's experts and who's not. It's a self-appointment. And so things like that is always know we're learning, always know that we have more to, gain within. And I'm constantly schooled by people who teach me new things all the time. Words I've never heard, places I've never gone.
I want you to know as you say this that I
Yeah.
purchased a world's best embalmer pin. I got it from a company called Morning Pug, and they are an Etsy shop. And I want you to know that because I have that pin, because I bought it, I am allowed to call myself an expert embalmer. I think I just found it too. You know what? I must have it on one of my regal gowns because I cannot find it at this moment. But I want you to know that I'm allowed to say that because of that pin.
Well, it's
Morning
like getting
Pug on
yourself
Etsy.
a world's greatest mom mug. Like, okay, I am the world's greatest
Yeah,
mom when I'm drinking out of the mug.
I'm
So,
World's Okayest sister as well.
oh,
Yeah, so I
that's
have a
a
lot of titles. Like I don't want to, get too boastful, but I'm kind of a big deal. But no, but for
I love
sure,
it.
what you said about being humble, because I feel like there's a balance of being approachable, right? And for people to feel like they can ask you questions without, ridicule or belittling or I
And
think
there's an
sometimes people forget where they started.
yeah,
And so when you have people at that very tender place, and now they're seeking information, right? You have all kinds of people on social
yeah,
media that may or may not be knowledgeable or, in what they're putting out, but they're looking for that. And so I think it's important if you're going to set yourself up for that, if that's your intention is to communicate, then you need to also be approachable.
yeah,
Time is valuable, and if they're spending it looking at or listening to your content, I mean, that's kind of a big deal. That's to be
it is.
appreciated and respected.
Well, and we can learn as much from every end of the spectrum from someone just getting into the business. They have a whole new approach and thought process behind that may make way more sense than the person 50 years in it. And so both ends we can learn from and every place in between. And so and learning can also be learning what not to do. I always tell like students or people who are like, I hate this business. And I'm like, is it really the business? Is it where you're working? Well, it's probably where I'm working. I just don't like this. I said, but you're learning. You're learning what you don't want to do next time. You're learning what you will look better for in an employer. Like you're constantly learning, but you have to look at it as it's not always a positive thing you're learning, but you can take a positive out of it as you're going
Hmm.
through it.
And
So,
sometimes it's just where you're at. I tell students a lot when they feel disheartened. because maybe they don't feel like they're learning what they would rather be learning, right? The
Yeah.
what not to learn, they're in that place. And I remind them, I'm like, you maybe just haven't found the right spot yet. Like, and
Yeah.
that's okay, but don't give up on the whole field because you're temporarily just not in the right spot, you know?
Yeah.
Because I think it's easy for them to do sometimes because they do. It's a lot of work being a student and all the work to get licensed. I mean, I don't know if people forget it's a lot of work,
It
balancing
is.
all these things.
Well, and you have a lot of later in life students and a lot of people who are not just like they aren't just going right to college out of high school and doing they have three kids running around at home and they're balancing the home and a job and going to school and all of the things that are entailed with that. And that is a lot to try and figure out. And then, oh, I'm licensed now, but there's no jobs around me. So what do I do? Pick up my whole family and move, which is what you do have to be willing to do a lot of times within death care because that one funeral home in your one town that you live in may have two directors, but they're going to be lifers and you're going to have to wait out until they retire for
Hmm.
a position to open. So just because you want to be a funeral director doesn't mean a funeral home has a salary sitting there waiting for you to go work there. And I think that is eye-opening to a lot of folks going into the business that think, "Oh, I'll just be a funeral director and go work there." It's not like we're, I don't know, an accountant where there's lots of accountant businesses in your town. There's maybe one funeral home. So it's a
Hmm.
very different perspective when you really look at it that a lot of people I don't think do
No,
when
for
they think
sure.
about it.
And I've had those conversations too, where it's like, what do you love more? The community where you live, enough to endure this miserable job because you're telling
Mhm.
me you're unhappy there and it's not likely to change? Or do you prefer to have a better work environment or more opportunities? Because you have to sometimes seek them. They're not going to come to
Right.
you. So, and it's really fascinating. Like you said, things are done so differently in other places. Even if within the US, it's kind of cool to see the differences.
Mhm.
And I feel like as an instructor, I get to see them within my students. Now, are
Yeah.
you currently an instructor? Are you teaching at the moment?
No. Nope, not right now. So I was for about a year and a half, and it just wasn't the right fit for me, the way that the school did its learning. And so I left and just haven't had time to be able to go back towards that just because I took on more at the funeral home and life got busy with kids and sports and all those pockets of time fill up with other things. And
Mhm.
so I haven't circled back to it, but I hope to eventually.
Okay, good.
I
I
love
know
it.
you'll
I
be
like working
against
with
it.
the students and
Yeah.
I'm such a mother hen and I've like my kids are that way, but I didn't realize I'm that way as much as I am. And so I'm like, oh, look, it's kids, even though they're full adults. I'm like, oh, let me take care of you and cultivate you and check in on you and kind of thing. So it's just who I am, I guess.
That's okay. My sister's similar. She was making Easter baskets for her children, and then finally, like, her daughter's 30, and it's like, maybe it's time to stop, Like,
Be me. That's
it's
okay.
okay. Yeah, I think she just makes them for because she enjoys doing it, because they're like,
Yeah.
okay. So tell me how you got into the business.
Oh, kind of age old, when I was a teenager, started working at the funeral home, and my mom was an aftercare coordinator at a funeral home. She had been a nurse and did pediatric nursing and was a nurse at a pediatric office when a patient had a terminal illness, and she helped the family through the death. And then his brother ended up having the same illness and died of the same thing. And so she kind of helped almost like in a hospicey role, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
And then she kind of transitioned over to a funeral home at some point and worked there and did the aftercare. And so when I needed a job when I was 16, she's like, all right, you're going to go work at the funeral home for $3 an hour or whatever it was at that time. And I worked the evening shift. It was back when there was babysitters, I call it, at the funeral home, where
Mm-hmm.
little Betty, who lived next door to the funeral home, would come over and sit for the evening and answer the phones while the funeral director in the small town went to his kids' basketball games or did whatever for the evening. And then the funeral director would be home by 9 o'clock and take the phone. So
Mm-hmm.
no one had to sit at the funeral home. And that was kind of what happened. There was pagers involved there. So, we would page them if we needed them. And so that's what I did. I worked evening calling hours, which we don't call them that here, but that's kind of where it what I'm hearing more across the country, that visitation time, and set up a lot of chairs, broke down a lot of chairs, vacuumed a lot, typed a lot on typewriters back in the day, um, and just grew up in the business and then went off to college and wanted to be an epidemiologist. I wanted to run around in a Tyvek suit and chase epidemics and find rabid monkeys, and found out it's all numbers, and that is not anywhere near what how my brain works. I'm not a numbers person. I'm not a chemistry person. Like I'm just that's not how my brain functions well and easily. And so I switched over to psychology, which is what I love, and thought, "Ooh, I want to be a forensic psychologist and I want to study serial killers and I want to all that." And that was like 10 more years of college. And I thought, that seems terrible because I'm also not a studenty person.
Yeah.
I'm not, my ADD does not allow me to sit, focus, take, really be invested in what I'm listening to. I'm thinking a ton of other things. And so I'm a hands-on learner more. College was good, but once I got to mortuary college, after I got my psych degree, that was easier. It was easy to listen to something that I wanted to really, really learn about rather than those classes you have to sit through just to get to the end result. And my mom has been the one that said, "Hey, why don't you try this?" And so junior year of my first bachelor's degree, I did my apprenticeship and was like, "All right, yeah, this is it." Actually, today I was at a cemetery for a burial, and there's a little girl buried there, and she is what solidified it about 2, 3 weeks into my apprenticeship. She was it. She was why I said this is it for me. Like I remember the moment, remembered what I was doing, and had never considered that until today. And I walked over to her grave and I was like, "You are the reason."
Mm.
That locked it in for me, I think, and then made me want to keep trying. And so did my apprenticeship and went off to mortuary school and then came back and went back to the funeral home I had kind of grown up in, and always thought that that was not successful. Like I was the kind of person in our little town, I saw the people graduate high school, go off to college, and they'd come back to the football games and their hair would be better and their clothes would be so cool and they seemed so successful because they went away and
Mhm.
never came back forever. And so I thought maybe I wasn't being successful doing that, but it was the right place, the right time. It was where I was supposed to be. And I've been licensed 24 years now, which is crazy. I always thought doing something that long, it'd be totally retirement time right here, right? And it's not. So it is weird. It is a weird feeling being into one vocation for that long.
No, I feel you. I got licensed in 1998, and my story is actually similar to yours as far as, the pagers and the typewriters and the
Yeah,
cleaning and I'm first and last generation, like I guess you are as well.
sort
But
of, sort of.
maybe, right?
My
Maybe.
my grandpa was a funeral director, actually,
Oh, nice.
which
Okay.
I did not know until I was way into it,
Mm-hmm.
because he died when I was 3.5. And so I never knew him. I never knew that about him. He had only done it for a short time in Minnesota, in
Mm-hmm.
the Twin Cities, way back in the day. And so my mom has a stained glass that hung in the funeral home window that my great grandpa had owned and has that, but I never correlated growing up. That was from a funeral. Like I just
Mm-hmm.
never, I think it never clicked.
Hmm.
So I'm kind of second, skipped a generation, but I
Mm-hmm.
mean, my mom was there. So kind of third generation, but not really. So
Oh, that's really cool. So
yeah.
do you think any of your children will be interested?
No, I don't think so. They're comfortable. They love going to the funeral home. They'll go see who's getting their makeup done. They'll go help refill mints. They go and talk to everybody. But I don't know if it's something that's their personality, but I never would have said that I was interested probably at a younger age too. So, it'll see where their path leads them. If they wanted to, great. If not, I'm not. It's not like some of the funeral directors where they're like, "Man, my kid needs to do," where it
Yeah.
is that proud pass it on moment. It's what I have for my life. It's not something I feel like they need to have a passion for at all as well.
Yeah,
And
well, that's good. I can't imagine kind of having like this predestined idea. And I'm wondering if like athletes in other fields, I'm sure they have people that experience that where it's like, you're gonna
yeah.
do this, and before you're even old enough to even understand what that even means.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I kind of feel like I have a bunch of kids who I've watched become funeral directors because of my platform and because like there's a kid Daniel and he was 14 I think when we first started communicating and he was volunteering at the funeral home at that time and he is now a licensed funeral director. So over the course of these 8 years I have watched some of these kids grow into becoming funeral directors. So to me, I have a bunch of little, young kids that have grown
Yeah.
to adultness and become funeral directors. And it's been amazing to watch their journeys and how hungry they have been for that end goal. Like he is, I think he's was the youngest to ever graduate from the mortuary school. I mean, because he just did, he started prerequisites in high school and he just went for it and he's just the most stellar kid. He's an adult now, but he'll always, he's one of those guys that he'll always be a kid to me. I told my stepson that. I'm like, you're 18 now, but you'll always be a kid. Like I will always call you my child or a kid or whatever. It's just how, you view people during that.
Well, it's nice you get to kind of see it come to fruition too, right?
It's amazing. It's like you want to shout from mountaintop for them, but nobody knows them to, know what I'm shouting about. But it is exciting. It's fun to watch people get their goal and what they're passionate for. And I think we forget when we're later in our careers and later what that feels like coming out of high school and going to college and having this end big goal and taking your boards and graduating mortuary school and then finally getting that license and what that feels like where 20, 4 or 5, whatever years later, it's like, yeah, okay, I'm a funeral director. You forget that beginning a lot of times.
No, for sure. And I remember how like printed studying for the state law exam and like highlighting in a paper book, right? And
Yes.
making actual flashcards out of note cards and the financial investment. And you just that's another thing too, and I
Oh,
don't
it's
know if we even remember that completely at this juncture, but like none of this is cheap and board exams, all these things accrue. And then of course you have to have clothing that's appropriate. Like it's a lot, especially, when you're juggling other financial obligations and other commitments and
well, just
I
the
think
textbooks, which I don't even think students really don't get hard copies. They get like PDFs now, and I'm a tactile, like if I'm gonna read a book or attempt to read a book, I want a book. I don't
yeah.
like Kindles. I don't want to read it on like I want an actual book that I can turn a page and I don't love not being able to highlight and do all that in person and I don't I also wonder like the national board. I remember sitting taking that filling in bubbles.
Mm-hmm.
I took both sides in one day, and then I had to wait for my mail to come with the
Mm-hmm.
letter that I opened and had to look and see like if I passed or not. And so it wasn't instant. I didn't push a button and then a screen pop up and tell me you passed, you failed. Like we all had to wait for them to come in the mail. And um, I feel like I liked doing it on paper and being able to
Mm-hmm.
like go back and forth. And I don't know if I would love taking the tests up on technology.
Yeah.
Makes me seem really old by saying that too, but I'm just a tactile I send mail still. I pay my bills with checks. Like
Wow.
I just like that.
So you're almost at progressive commercial level, but not quite, right?
I it's just weird. And I don't know if anybody else is still like that, but to me, like I like just having a bill, writing a check, putting it in, putting my stamp on, like I support the US Postal Service. I might be the last one in the end to do it, but I just love it. I like getting mail, I like sending mail.
So are you the person in the grocery store that holds up the line because you write the check for your groceries or no?
No, gosh, not that far.
Okay.
I'm all about the order groceries now because then I spend less. I can order them, drive up, they bring them to my
Mm-hmm.
car, I hop out, I talk to the person, put them in, drive away. I found I spend way less because I'm a, oh, that looks great sort of
Mm-hmm.
sort of shopper. So I like to rein myself in.
No, I'm a curbside fan too, to be honest. So,
Yeah. It's easier. It saves time.
so if you had to choose between being in the back or the front of the house exclusively, what would you pick?
Oh, great question. Um, I feel like it depends on the day. I would probably, if I had to give up one, go to the front of the house just because as I'm aging, smells are stronger.
Hmm.
Like things stick with me more in terms of like just smells. I'm already like a hound dog, my husband calls me. I hate pickles, and I will be like, "You ate a pickle," and he'll be like, "Yeah, 3 days ago," and or what, like I just
Yeah.
smell things so strongly, and that happened after pregnancy. Everything got hyper crazy with that, which I'm sure women can connect to, that everything changes, and so now everything just smells so much stronger in the back. So that's one of the reasons I maybe say that.
Well, it's
But
definitely a more physical component. Well, I guess yes and no because you do physical things up front too with moving caskets and all that. So I
right,
guess there's no real escaping of the physical element unless maybe you're just not doing transfers, which are pretty intensive.
yeah.
And I heard that gray hair, I just found this out this week. Gray hair is more porous and will absorb smells, supposedly. My hairdresser
Oh.
told me this. So that means that, that weird decomp smell that you feel like it sticks to you as you get older, if you let your hair grow out, I guess it will really grab it and make it that much more enjoyable for a longer period of time.
Interesting.
Yeah, I didn't know that. I was like, oh, that's great.
Amazing. I used to keep a special, like I made up my own shampoo solution. One, it was for when you'd come home from being out like at restaurants, bars, when you had the
Hmm.
smell, but also for coming home from prep and wanting to just be clean. It wasn't even about smell. To me, it was the the anything that's on me that I can't see, just to make sure I was fully just cleaned up before I went into my house, and
Hmm.
with the kids especially and stuff. I wanted to make sure brushing my teeth after embalming to me was like the most amazing feeling, because you don't realize how much is on your teeth because you're breathing it in. Even with a respirator, it's coming across your teeth every time you take a breath in. So I was like, I just want to brush my teeth right now, was always my first instinct after embalming.
Interesting.
See, now you're gonna be like, oh, do I?
Hmm.
Yeah.
I feel like I want to brush my teeth right now because like
It's
embalming.
it's
I have
just
embalming in my
there.
mouth.
And
Ew.
it's
Oh,
and
that's.
then and people may go, well, what is there? It's not like there's like blood and bacteria or anything, but you just don't know.
Well, that
Everything.
it just makes you feel better. I like a shower after you've been
Mhm.
embalming just makes you feel better. Like
It does.
you feel like any funk, any residual funk is gone. It's just refreshing. So
Yeah,
washing your hair, getting that decomp out of your hair.
it is
We
good
could
stuff.
probably get like endorse some shampoos, and that could be your next move. So champion slash like Pantene, or you know what I mean? You could be like, are you home and
L'Oreal.
smelling the decomp from earlier today? Get too close to the retort, and maybe you got the little smell of smoke. I got you.
There you
Speaking of
go.
which, tell me about this new venture with Champion.
Um, yeah, this has been exciting, but so Dimitri, who owns Champion Company, just hit me up one day randomly and was like, "Hey, thanks for connecting on LinkedIn." It all began on LinkedIn. And
Ah,
he goes, "Thanks for, connecting," which he sent me a thing, and so I just accepted the thing, and then he's like, "Hey, let's chat." And I was like, "Okay." And we get on a call. I didn't ask what we were talking about. I didn't have anything. So we get on this call, and I was like, I probably should have asked you what you want to talk about, but here I am sitting in my car before I go in to run a funeral, and we're chatting. The most amazing story behind a company, just the most down-to-earth people. It's a very small company, and I love that. I just was there last week doing a deep dive training into the full line of products, things I never knew they offered, ways to use the products I never had a clue about. Like to fully understand one company's full line of products, I don't know anybody who knows that in depthly. I had no idea. And I've used mostly Champion when I can choose that. during the course of my career, and which of course Dimitri loved hearing. He's like, yes, I like this. And then he kind of approached, hey, we're looking to maybe do someone to be our spokesperson. And I was like, what does that mean to you? He said, I have no idea. So we both kind of went in blind, and it was very nice that we both were willing to keep moving forward without fully knowing exactly what this looked like. And it's
Mhm.
a super part-time job. It's a super part-time thing, but I will kind of talk for them within the industry. They really don't have embalmers. Like Dimitri, who owns it, not a funeral director. They're salespeople, pretty much all of them, not embalmers.
Mhm.
They have chemists and they have people who formulate these amazing products, and they have salespeople who have learned these products and know how to use them better than embalmers. And so listening to them talk, you don't realize they're not really embalmers. Yeah, some of the questions they're not going to be able to maybe answer because they have not embalmed. But I was pretty amazed by that and how they put their team together. I've never been to a fluid company to see like the large tanks of formaldehyde and the production and all these cases of fluid. And so it was just pretty amazing to see their business, see how simple it really is in terms of the staffing and everything. But then there's so many people that aren't within the confines of the building. But I digress. So it's kind of a placement that it's evolving as we go along. Um, we both know we want to work together and create things. There's a fluid forum coming up, which I'm jumping
I
into
saw that.
pretty quickly. So it's five different fluid companies, five, one person from each company, and we're sitting on basically a panel. There's going to be two speakers earlier in the day, and then this 2 hours of this fluid forum, and we have four topics, and then we rotate. So each company gets 5 minutes to talk about that topic, and then we go to the next one, and then the next one, and the next one. We're not bashing each other. We're just talking about how our company, what
Mhm.
products we would use to handle edema or obese cases or jaundice. So there's all these topics, and I think it'll be really interesting, the approach everyone takes. We're all vastly different speakers and kind of how we do things. I also am not sciencey at all. And so I'm very different than some of the people that are going to be there because I'm not sciencey. I don't do chemical equations. I don't speak that way. I'm much more simplistic. And I think that's why people like the social media side, because I am relatable when I talk about those things, like you said,
Mhm.
with the Pell and the Style. And so, yeah, I'm nervous about it. I will say that out loud, just because I just started with the company. And there's a lot of things like if someone questions me, I'm not going to probably be able to whip out an answer as it if the people that have worked there for so long can. But Dimitri has faith in me, and so I'm excited to see how everyone presents their things at this and how it goes. So it'll be kind of a jump in for me, but it'll be fine. The next week I go speak for 3 hours at a continuing ed about other things. So um it'll be a good education, and I'll take from it. Like I said, I will learn from it, and then the next one will be better. And every time I'll just keep getting better as I learn the products and learn what they're wanting to do. So we're gonna do some social media items. We're gonna market a little more, be at conventions a little more. So as we're going, I think we're trying to figure it all out.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it is exciting. They're just such good people. I feel like I've known them forever. And so it's just kind of like old home week whenever we get on a call, and I love that. And
That is nice. That
it's
feeling of
new.
team, even if you're not physically together, that's
Yeah.
really it makes a big difference.
Yeah. They make me, I feel like I'm more creative in the last few weeks than I've been in so long. It's like I got really stagnant, and they've like pulled out, kind of like when I started the social media, I didn't realize I was kind of in a rut and kind of just dragging, and something got reignited in me. And I feel like this is doing that same thing. 8 years later, how can we reinvent what I was doing and who I am as a funeral director, but spin it a little, just a little different to kind of reignite. Because when you do that across the board, everything you do, you have a new
Mhm.
passion and a new outlook on it, and you bring back different knowledge base to what I do on the other side. I came home and I was like, oh my gosh, the girls, because it's an all-female prep team right now.
Mhm.
Ladies, we have to go and talk about some fluids. We haven't had a chance to, but I'm like, I cannot wait to tell you what I learned. And so I'm super excited to use that and just spill over with it. So,
It is exciting. I will tell you, I we had some champion product when I was at the Army Mortuary in Germany, but one of my colleagues was very allergic to like glutaraldehyde and stuff, so he was like a fainting goat if we went out into the supply area and got near it. He would just, like, yeah, which I shouldn't laugh. It's not funny. It's not. But
no,
as long
it's
as no
not.
one is injured after the fact, you
Yeah.
are, I think, entitled to giggle slightly. But yeah, and then I did an event not long ago in Dallas at a care center, and I presented on decomposition cases and the challenge of that. And Champion was there, and it's interesting because it was an event solely for like the care center team. And when I went into the little room where we were going to be speaking, they had set up like legit tables. Champion did. They had like two really legit tables where I thought I was on an expo floor for a moment. And they I was talking to the gentleman that was there, and he said they preferred to do these smaller organic interactions versus like really big things. And in talking with him, I learned they were one of the only fluid companies left that are considered family owned. So I think it's
Mhm.
just them and Frigid now. I am not familiar with Esco and Eccles in great depth. I'll go ahead and share that with everybody. I'm not like the fluid guru of sorts that knows all the ins and outs of these companies, but that did stand out to me. And they are also have offerings for those who are seeking a more green burial type of situation with the families they're serving. And I thought their products were really interesting. And they had a chart available that would tell you, okay, if you like this product from this person, then this is the one that we
Yeah.
do use instead. So they had a really strong educational component. And the gentleman that stood up and spoke, I mean, he knew the fluids. He was getting questions from seasoned embalmers, and he just knew.
Was it Steve?
I feel bad, I don't remember his name. I'm so sorry. It was a younger gentleman with glasses,
Yeah, it's
and then
Steve.
there was an
Yeah,
older
because I think
gentleman with
Dimitri
glasses.
and Steve both came down. Um,
Oh,
and
so Dimitri was the other gentleman, the older gentleman?
yeah,
Okay.
he's maybe 50.
Yeah, okay. I say older, like I'm I'm
Yeah,
turning
he's
50 this
but he
year.
is definitely salt and peppery. It's hard to like my husband looks like he's 70 because just his hair color, but he grayed when he was in his 30s. So,
I will tell you in 2 seconds who I met with, because I'm gonna look while we're talking, if that's not
okay.
too
Yeah,
terribly
I know
rude.
they went down to Texas and did an
Yeah,
event.
Dallas, right?
I think
Oh, cool. So I did get to
yeah.
talk to them. Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
We did the SOAR event together. But yeah,
Okay.
the setup, and you know how excited embalmers get when you bring like free product, right? Like
Oh
fluid,
yeah.
and then they handed out these legit scrub tops in these little bags. So
Oh.
yeah, those embalmers were like living their best lives, or care center staff. I'm sure some weren't necessarily embalmers, but I was like, wow, like they had powder, like they were running around with it, like after, there's like loitering like a pawn shop and people running around with TVs and stuff. That's how they were like hunched over holding
Funny.
their little goodies from Champion. But yeah, it was really insightful. And
Well, that's
I have not gotten to use their products yet. I would like to. That would be cool. But I'm excited for you in that you're going to
yeah.
be bringing that knowledge and information out to more practitioners. Because
Well, and they don't.
anytime you have a new fluid that you're not familiar with, you're going to be afraid to use it or leery because, you have to trust the
Yep.
product for what you expect it to do. And it's almost like, you've been dating one person forever, but, maybe now you're in an open relationship and there's this other
Yeah.
person you can date, but you're not sure about it. So that's kind of how it
Well,
feels with your
and
fluid.
I told them like, hey, we got cases of some of this back in 2004, and I'm pretty sure it's still sitting in the embalming closet because nobody knew how to use it. There was no
Mhm.
instructional, there was no anything. It just showed up because that's what the owner of the funeral home bought, but I didn't know how to use it. I had a vague knowledge, but not a full knowledge. And
Mhm.
that's one complaint people have about Champion is they don't have reps that go out to the funeral homes anymore. I don't know if that even garners more sales or garners, anything. So why pay a salary to charge more for fluid to somebody just to come and shake your hand and drink coffee with you and then leave? I don't know. There's something to that. I get I want somebody to come talk to me and show me that I am of value to your company, but then I also appreciate, okay, you're not having these more overheads by more salaries. You're allowing us to keep our, price good because you believe in the system you have. So I see it both ways, but I remember when all the companies had people visiting and it was so annoying because it was never at the good time. They would stop in and you're like, yeah, I'm on the way to the church. I'm doing this. Like, I'd actually like to talk to you, but I can't. And so it was never at a good time. And not that they were annoying. It's just that it's like,
Like the nature of
oh,
the beast.
yeah, it is.
Yeah. When I
It is.
worked for Pierce, it was like that. When I had to hit the road, and it is an expensive position if you think about it, because you got a
Yes.
vehicle, the salary of the individual, the fuel. But
It's a
I
lot.
used to pop in, and I used to feel bad sometimes because I would be like, oh man, there's a lot of cars in this parking lot, but I have to go to the next place. Like you have to keep moving, right? So you're like, I can't circle back. And I could, a lot of time I'd have something to show them or something, to leave with them.
Yeah.
So, and it wasn't that they didn't want to talk. Well, some didn't want to talk to me, but some just legitimately couldn't, right?
Yeah.
And it was, and again, you're expected to go to X number of places and so it was a
Yeah.
hard balance because I remember being on the other end of that where like my Batesville rep would come in and it would be like at 4:59 or something. And I was like, oh my God, like I'm trying to get out of here. But I wanted to hear what he had to say. We would sit down and
Right.
talk and it was worthy of time, but it's just finding that right window in a funeral home.
Well, but that I think goes over to the other side of back to kind of talking about students and about people looking for jobs at funeral homes. They're like, well, I stopped in and I gave them my resume and nobody's called me. I'm like, okay, but let's break it down.
Hmm.
That person that you talked to maybe had two funerals that day or a walk-in of somebody that had an emergency death and your resume got sat somewhere on their desk, but they have a huge caseload on their desk they have to handle right now.
Hmm.
Your resume is not their emergency. Even though it's urgent for you, it's not urgent for them, and kind of like explaining that and what it really looks like. And they're like, okay, I get it, but I need a job. And I'm like, I get that, but that is not their job to have to call you back and to give you a job.
Hmm.
So keep going, go to more places. We always say stop in, talk to whoever answers the door because that's usually going to be your gatekeeper.
Hmm.
It's,
Yep.
the secretary or whoever it may be, your part-time guy that is always hanging around the funeral home and basically is the thumbs up or thumbs down for you if you got
Hmm.
a job. And stop in not too early, but not too late in the morning. Bring a little snack, bring a donut, bring something for the office, and just be like, "Hey, wanted to touch base. Here's my information. Would love to talk to you," or invite the funeral director out for coffee.
Hmm.
I'd take you to coffee and get some FaceTime with them, and those things will get you further than just mailing your resume or emailing or whatnot. And
Yeah. No,
it's the
that's great
reality.
advice.
It's the
Plus, I
reality.
mean,
That's
who's going to be mad if you show up with like a dozen donuts or something? Like,
I know,
I would
right?
not be mad. Half the time you don't eat in a funeral home, right? You look up and it's the end of the day and you're like, oh, I forgot to eat today.
Uh,
But yeah, food, remember around the holidays, and you probably still have this experience where all your suppliers like send you cookies around
Yes.
Christmas or bring you all kinds of little treats. That's like, that used to be one of my favorite things. I was like, oh, yes, we got the cookies from so and so or whatever it was, right?
The
Those little cookie
nuts or
tins.
the jars of nuts or
Yes.
whatever it might be.
And
Yeah.
this is the little things, nourishment, but no, for sure you've got to connect. And I think too, because I'll tell students too, if they are going to pop in, I'm like, if you see a lot of cars in the parking lot, like that's one of your signs, right? Like you
Yeah.
probably don't want to pop in right then. Um,
No.
yeah, and so it's a balance of trying to get in front of the right, but also that organic personal interaction that I think is missing a lot now with technology. And I feel like I know I'm going to sound old, but some of the younger folks who were born into a lot of this technology, they haven't had to do like challenging human interactions as much as maybe
Yes.
those who are older. So There is that too, getting comfortable with that interaction, which you need to be a funeral director anyway.
Right. Well, and you see that on the flip side where, oh, the funeral home has a request and whatever, a request a pre-arrangement meeting with
Hmm.
the person to plan ahead, and they fill out the form, and the form comes through, and you're like, what, what does that even mean? Or you get a death call from the website because they fill
Hmm.
out something, and so I think sometimes it works well and then maybe it doesn't, but I think that's on both sides. So
Hmm.
either you lean into technology far too much and it kind of goes against you because there's no human, or you're so I don't want to say uneducated, unexposed to some of
Hmm.
what you could be using in a better way.
Yeah.
Okay, too. It's fine on both sides, but it's being smart about how that is. Like, oh, I emailed them. Did you follow up? No, they should have just read my email. You need to follow up. You need to
Yeah.
stop in. You need to. I've kind of gone through that with my 18-year-old stepson. He's, going and looking for a job. Well, I got on Indeed because they told me I had to get on Indeed. I said, did you go stop by? Maybe check in? No. I applied. And I'm like, stop by. Ask to talk to somebody. Let them see your face. Like you are somebody. You're a good looking kid. You work hard. Show up, shake their hand, look in the face. They're going to remember that far more than what's on your resume because you're
Hmm.
you're right there. Oh, you look good. Let's go get to work.
Yeah. No, for sure. It's good advice. Good advice for some young folks out there that needed that, right? So I have one more question, and I am excited. And just so you know, I will get you one of the pins from Morning Pug so that when you are working for Champion, it will help just kind of elevate your positioning because once you have that pin, and it's a cool pin, it's like a little
I'm
embalming machine
amazing.
pin.
Ooh,
So yeah, once you have that, I mean, no explanation necessary. So I will make sure that
read
we
this.
get one to you.
Read this pen
Yeah,
right
just point
here.
at it. You don't even have to speak, just point at it. Before you even start presenting for champion, just be like, before we get started, and then just point at it for a moment and have like
I
this
have been
somber,
reading.
quiet moment of acknowledgement, and then you can move on.
I love that.
Yes. So finally, as we wrap things up, tell us about this new last name. What's going on there?
I know nobody can say it correctly. And what's wild, so it's Kari Ickes. So the
Okay.
ick, Josh and I had actually started another YouTube channel called The Ick Factor and had played around with that for a while, but life got too busy for that. But yeah, so he was a vault guy for a million years. He was the biggest crush of my life back in like
Really?
2004. He came sauntering across the cemetery out at I can see it like it was yesterday, and gave him all my best mood, like hitting on the man like no tomorrow. Didn't have on a wedding ring. Came to find out, he's with people. When I was single, he was with someone. When he was single, I was with somebody. He never realized I was ever hitting on him. I'm like, dude, how many funeral directors have helped you tear down the tent, load your truck, and wave as you leave the cemetery? Like,
Right? You're like, oh, can I get that fake grass for you? Let me help
He's
you with
he's
that.
like, I just thought you were really nice. And I mean, I seriously helped tear the whole thing down.
Oh, he
Just,
thought you were just being super nice?
oh, yeah. Yep. And
Wow.
I do that with more than just him at like the ball guys. I usually help, with all the
Well,
stuff.
now
But
you're going to have to because they've just heard you say
I
that. So,
know.
or
But it's
if you're helping, they're going to wonder if you have a crush on them. So you're going to have to be very clear.
but then I had other relationships, and I got married and found other love in my life, and had my kids, which I will never ever regret any of those things. And then I say, we had to be with other special people through our path so that when we are together now in our family, we have the kids we do and we have the life we do. And so years later, he was single, I was single. He was running the crematory at the funeral home I was at. He had left the vault business after like 20 some years for a little bit, and then was running the crematory, and one day finally asked me out, and I was like, oh my God, Josh the Vault Man, because he was Josh the Vault Man. I would come back from
Yeah,
the
you've
cemetery.
done content with him, correct?
I did. Yeah, he's done a lot of videos because he's like, I have nothing to talk about. I'm a blue collar grunt, and I don't you get that man talking about vaults, and it's like Rain Man. Like, I don't know how to explain it, but he just is in his zone and he knows his stuff, and I love it. And so he works at the National Cemetery now and can use all of that in a different way, and just loves it because he's such a type A, everything has to be in
Hmm.
line. Our shoes are always perfectly lined up, and out there it's checks and balances.
Yep.
But so we had a surprise wedding in December. We came up with the idea. We got engaged a Christmas ago, and then about January, I said, it's your 50th birthday this year. I said, it's kind of the perfect cover to do a surprise wedding. And he was like, game. So we told the kids, they were all on board. So they were the only ones that knew about it the whole time. A couple people we had to tell along the way, but like my parents, we told a few days before because I didn't
Hmm.
want my mom to never to speak to me again. But his parents didn't know until they walked in. Brothers and sisters didn't know until they walked in, and they thought they were coming to a surprise birthday party for him, and then it was actually our wedding. So
Oh.
it was it was perfect. It was really nice. Sometimes I'm like, did we really get married? Because it's just such a weird, he was there for so long and
Hmm.
now having his last name. And so people know him within the business as well because he was a vault guy for so long. And so they're like, what? How are you? And there's actually, it's weird. There's another vault guy has the same last name. He pronounces it Ekis. And
Okay.
that guy has a brother named Joshua Ickes as well.
Oh.
The families, one day I came home and I was like, I'm going to look. And I tracked both lineages back to the 1700s and there's
Hmm.
no crossover.
Interesting.
I still call him my cousin. Like I had him on the burial this morning actually. And I was like, hey
Mhm.
cousin, I'm blah, blah, blah. And we're not related even a little bit, even by marriage, but it's just fun. It's a
You
good,
found that out in one evening?
I did.
So you should
I
do genealogy on the side too.
I quickly deep dove and it was wild. You could see how the name changed over the years and letters and vowels and stuff. But yeah, so Kari Ickes and nobody says it correctly and that's all right. So
We're not going to talk about what I sent you in this
I
meeting
oh
invite,
we
right?
should talk about because that's hilarious. I was a little typo and it came through Kari Icky wise and I was like, I am dying right now reading this because it's perfect.
I was so embarrassed. I was like, oh no.
It's
And then I messaged you this morning and I'm like, so is it icky? Is it Y or EY? And
and
then
I
you were like real serious and you're like, no. And you spelled it for me and I was like, I know. And you were
I'm
like
like,
scared.
she did not put LOL, and I don't know her personality enough to know if she is joking quite yet. That's what is also cool about this space. Like we have a small group of women that are in different spaces within death care, and we all chat and we all
Hmm.
have like go back and forth. But I've only met a part of the group and getting to know everybody, but it's in a completely extended out way. And I
Hmm.
think that's what's amazing about this is I would have never talked to a funeral director in Minnesota or North Carolina or anywhere if it wasn't for what I created on social media and then extending out and getting to do I've learned so much and so many mind-blowingly amazing women, which I don't ever am not like I'm a female funeral director. Like I'm a funeral director. I just want to be the best funeral director. I don't need to be a female funeral director
Hmm.
and like wear that hat per se, but some astonishingly amazing women that are doing so many good things within this space. And I think that's one reason also champion. And Dimitri said, you know, who's in mortuary school? It's like 80% women.
Hmm.
We want to present someone who's younger. And I was like, thanks for that. And female and can relate and is familiar to some people. And so that's kind of one of the reasons I think it came about too. So
That's awesome.
yeah.
Representing. Love it. So where can people find you at this fluid forum that you mentioned?
Oh, that is in Chicago, you would say. Is it I want to say Xavier, and it's not. Malcolm, is it a Malcolm X college? Of course, you would ask me this. I have no idea. It's at Malcolm X College, I believe, and students and licensed folks can all come. They were talking whether they're going to do a like a live cast of it or not, but I don't
Oh,
think
I
that.
wish they would do something virtual.
Well, and I said, hey, why don't you throw out the idea, reach out to One Room, which is a funeral live stream platform, and maybe they'll come in and help you set it up or doing something like that. I'm like, knowing other people in the space, it's easy to kind of throw some of that out where if you don't, then you don't know maybe what you could connect in there because I'm like, I think it would be great to allow other people to get to view it.
For sure. Well, I have a
Live.
Zoom room, so
Yeah.
let me know and I
I
can
think it
help
would be
you.
fun. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many different ways to use technology to capture. It wouldn't even be that serious.
No.
So I have the details of the Fluid Forum, and it's going to take
Thank
place
you.
Wednesday, May 13th at Malcolm X College, and that is located on 1900 West Jackson Boulevard in Chicago, and it will be from 12 p.m. to 5 p.m. So you guys will want to catch the Fluid Forum, where you can nerd out with different embalming fluid companies. I would be down for that. And then in general, where can people find you?
Yeah, so Kari the Mortician on any social media. So Kari Northy is what it used to be, Kari Ickes, but I have all my social is Kari the Mortician. Kind of was good to keep it a little more generic that way, just because the name change is kind of wacky to some people. So,
Awesome. Well, I want to thank you for your time today.
cool.
Thank you for being my guest and sharing what you're up to now and where people can find you. I've known you were a treasure for a while, but now more people are becoming
Aw.
aware, and I think that's fantastic. And I want to thank the listeners for watching or listening to FSI the podcast. This is a Kates-Boylston production, and I will have contact information for Kari the Mortician available to you in the show notes. Thank you.
Thank you.